Alright, so in this project we're going to be focusing on Active Directory. So in order to do so, first we got to create a domain controller virtual machine. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in our Active Directory resource group. I'm going to name it DC1, domain controller 1. Got to make sure you put it in the data center. Create a username password for it like I did here, and then in Azure just select these check boxes. Let's go ahead and review and create. Alright, and after creation of the virtual machine, the domain controller, we're going to click on it, go to network settings, and then go to the network interface. And basically what we're doing here is changing the network interface card for the domain controller from dynamic to static, meaning no matter how many times we refresh or restart the virtual machine, the IP stays the exact same, the private IP address. And it's important for this specific project slash lab because when we create our client 1 virtual machine, we're going to put the DNS server to this private IP address just for connectivity purposes. So we're going to go ahead and wait for that to save. So now that that is done, we're going to go ahead and connect to the virtual machine through remote desktop. So we got to go into it, get the public IP address, and then go over here into, for Mac, it's just called Windows app now. You want to add a PC, copy and paste that IP address in there. Giving it a name isn't necessary, but since we're going to be working with two today, being domain controller and client 1, I like to give them names just so I know which one I'm in while it's activated. So let's go ahead and log into here using the username and password we created earlier. Alright, there we go. Connect. And the reason why we're doing this is we're going to go in and deactivate the firewall. So whenever that loads up, I will be right back. Alright, so we are logged into the domain controller. The reason why we're deactivating the firewall is just for connectivity purposes between the two virtual machines for this lab. Alright, so in order to do so, to deactivate the Windows firewall, you want to come on make sure you're on your DC1, your domain controller. You want to right click on the Windows icon at the bottom left, press run. And you want to type in this right here, which is Windows Firewall, wf.msc. Click OK, make sure you go to Windows Defender Firewall Properties, and on all three of these tabs you want to make sure it's off. It is very important that it is on all three, so there we go. This one obviously just leave alone, but public profile, private profile, and domain profile. Go ahead and click apply and OK, and if you see here, everything is deactivated. So next we're just going to go ahead and install the Active Directory domain services. So you want to go ahead and go into add roles and features. We're gonna go ahead, okay. Next, make sure the server selection, there should only be one, but it should just be the domain controller. You should see that private IP address right here. And then if you remember, we went to, in Azure, we made it the 2022 data center, which is why all this is on the screen to begin with. So if everything looks how it does right now, you should be good. Alright, so in server roles, where it says Active Directory Domain Services, we're going to go ahead and checkbox that, add features. Perfect. Yep. Confirmation. Let's go ahead and click that just so it refreshes after we install everything. Go ahead and click install. And this is going ahead and installing the Active Directory domain features. So once this is finished installing and restarting, we'll be right back. And once you let it download or install, now we just have to configure it because all we did was install it. So you want to come up here to this little flag, promote this server. There we go. And then you want to add a new forest. The root domain name is going to be mydomain.com, at least for this lab's purposes. Press next. Alright, for password, it's not likely that we'll use this, but still just make your password there. Password 1. Awesome. You want to uncheck this create DNS delegation. And then you're going to want to Press next. Basically just kind of get through all of this, download stuff. Okay. Awesome. So prerequisite checks. Come on. Okay. So let's go ahead and press install. Alright, so after the install process, it's going to go ahead and log you out and restart. So you're going to need to re-log back in. However, for this, after you make it a domain controller, or a DNS server, and you download Active Directory, you have to kind of specify your domain as you log in. So of course, since we made it mydomain.com, you have to put that first, then a backslash, and then your username, or else it will not let you sign in, because you are technically not a part of the domain if you don't, or it's not registering that you're part of the domain if you don't put that in there. So let's go ahead, password, put our password in there, continue, and we should just be able to log back in. Perfect. And obviously you see DNS, you see the Active Directory domain servers, all that stuff is up and running, so that's perfect. Alright, so after the installation of the Active Directory domain services on the DC virtual machine, I'm going to come back here and create my client 1 virtual machine. So put it in the same resource group. Go ahead and name it client 1. Honestly, you can just name it whatever, but just for the lab purposes, this is what we're naming it. And then we're going to remember to put it in the same region as well. My DC1 is in East US 2, so this one will be as well. This one can be in Windows 10 Pro. It doesn't have to be in the data center. This actually needs to be in Windows 10 Pro for this specific lab. But once again, anything over 2 virtual CPUs should be perfect. 14 gigs of mem. You can have even less than that if you need. But we're going to go ahead and create a username and password again. Alright. Okay, just make sure you click that check mark at the bottom. I'm going to make sure, usually you can just press review and create, but I just want to make sure it's going to the right virtual network, which it is, so we should be good. Let's review and create. Create. And now we just give it a minute. Alright, so the deployment is complete, so from here, let's go ahead and do this. Okay, we're going to go to client 1, and what we're doing here is, like I mentioned earlier, is we are going to, let's refresh because it's saying it's not active. There we go. We're going to set client 1's DNS server to the DC1's private IP address. So to do that, we're going to go to network settings. Alright. Go into here, the virtual network card. Okay, yeah. And then you go to DNS servers right here. So it says inherit from virtual network, which is the VNet that was created when we created the virtual machine. But we're going to go ahead and press custom. And then usually, I would recommend copy and pasting the IP, but I do remember it. It's a very simple one, so I'm just going to go ahead and put it there. And then we're going to go ahead and press save. Let it go ahead and activate. Awesome. So it looked like it saved perfectly fine. Sometimes if you create a VNet yourself without the virtual machine doing it, there's a problem that people run into where it like fails to save at this step. If that ever happens, you just go into each one of your client, or like each one of your VMs, go to or you go to network security groups right here. Obviously click your client 1 NSG, which is your client 1, and you just add one. You add an inbound and an outbound. So I already have it made because it did give me this problem earlier when I was previously doing it. So you add this. The only things you change are the destination port ranges, which you can change that to 53, and then the priority to 290. This prioritizes pretty much, it prioritizes port 53 over the remote desktop. and it allows it to work. I'm not too sure why, but that's just a simple fix. So you do that for inbound and outbound. I'm going to go ahead and cancel it because, like I said, I have already done it, as you see here, and then you do it for outbound. And then you do the same thing for your DC1, because if you look here, my inbound is there, outbound, it is also there. But thankfully it went ahead and worked this time, so we don't have to do that. But there we go. So now we're going to go ahead and log into client 1. Client 1. Also, after you change the DNS server, go ahead and go back to it and press restart. I already did that off camera just because it does take a while for me sometimes. So then we're going to go back into the remote desktop. Remember I copied the IP address, the public one. We're going to add a new PC. Go ahead and paste that in there. Name it client 1 just because we are working with 2 different VMs. Awesome. And then the password that we created earlier, go ahead and put that in, and we'll log in to it right now. Alright, so we are in the client 1 VM. If you're ever working with more than one VM, we'll just pretend I have the other one open. At least in Mac, if you just go up here and you put a name on it, you can see it there. To determine whether or not you're in the domain controller or the actual client, there will not be a shop icon or any of these extra icons on the domain controller. But the main reason why we logged in here is to go ahead and try to observe the communication between the two. So if you want to ping the domain controller's private IP address and see if it works, it should. Let's see, reply. Yep, it looks like it's good. At 0% loss, that's awesome. So from here, to go a step further, we can even go into PowerShell. We can do ipconfig /all to look at the computer things. And remember how we changed the DNS server to the IP address? If you look here, it should, if everything was done correctly, it should state that the DNS server is pulling from this IP address. Alright, so now that we've logged back in, we're going to go ahead and create some organizational units, which is what we're going to store in our Active Directory to basically just organize stuff, and you'll see what I mean by that here in a second. So you're going to want to click the Start menu, go to Windows Administrative Tools, go down to Active Directory Users and Computers. Okay, click on My Domain. If you want to click the drop down, you can go to Users. You'll see, lab user. This is obviously us, and then a whole bunch of other stuff in the mix. So in order to create a new organizational unit, just right click on My Domain, go ahead, press New Organizational Unit. I put a underscore before all this just for, like I said, organizational purposes, to keep them all bunched up on the left side. So this is for employees. You want to make sure you spell this correctly, because when you add users and stuff like that, if it's not spelled correctly, it's not going to go there. So we're going to create another one named, boom, and admins. Perfect. Awesome. So now that we have employees and admins, we're going to stay in admins because we're going to make a user that has admin access. So we're going to go to, basically right click inside of the admins folder, new user. We're going to create Jane, cap still, Jane Doe. User logon name is just going to be Jane_admin at mydomain.com. If you see that there, that's perfect. Password, you can just keep it simple, keep it what you've been putting. Boom. I'm not going to require them to change password at next logon, just because, like I said, this is a lab. Jane admin is technically me. So let's, and this is also not good to do in person. Just, like I said, doing it for lab purposes. If you were to put this option as for an employee or like a manager and they quit or get fired, they should not still have access to your domain or that computer. So let's go ahead and press next, finish. So we haven't actually put Jane Doe in admins just because she's in this folder. This is more so for organizational purposes, like I said earlier. So we're going to go ahead and right click on Jane Doe, go to properties, This is when you want to make her a member of, right? So she's a member of domain users, so that just means she's in the domain. If you want to look at it as like an office building, everyone in that office building should be a part of the domain, so they can log into the computer, have the same access as everyone else, yada yada yada. But for this, with the DNS and domain or whatever the domain servers and stuff, domain admins is already a default category. So you just want to type in domain admins, check names, press OK, apply, and boom, she is now a member of domain admin. So what we're going to do now, we're going to go ahead and disconnect. We're just going to log off real quick. Perfect. And now we're going to try this. We're going to log back on. We're going to do mydomain.com. And with that user that we created her username and all that as Jane Admin. Boom, boom, boom. Password 1 is the password I gave her. Awesome. Okay, now we're going to press continue, continue, and see if this works, see if it logs us in. Okay, perfect. We are now logging into Jane Doe as an admin. If it ever wants to pop up. Okay, perfect. Boom, boom, boom. All this popped up. That's perfect. And now we'll go on to the next step. We created an admin, created some organizational units within Active Directory. We're going to try to connect this client 1 VM to the domain. In order to do so, obviously log into your client 1, your other VM. We're going to right click the start button, go to system. You may recognize this from the actual Active Directory setup on the domain controller, but we're going to click rename this PC. Go to change domain, obviously keep it the same, mydomain.com. Okay. And since we did the whole DNS server change to the IP address of the domain controller, that's the whole reason this is like able to work, because it's pulling the information from there. Like if we didn't do any of that and we type this in, it'd pull up like an error message because it's mydomain.com is pretty ambiguous. It's probably used elsewhere, but we're gonna go ahead and use the admin account that we created, mydomain.com /Jane_admin, and then her password. Alright, press OK. And then once you do this, if you think nothing happened, just move this window. Usually a pop-up kind of comes in behind it. Should press OK, and this will restart your VM or your computer, whatever you are doing it on. Just let it go ahead and take course and do its thing. Alright, so after adding client 1 into mydomain.com, our DNS server domain, we're going to go to the window administrative tools again, pull this up, and if you remember earlier, we had created these. We're going to go ahead and, if you look at computers, since we added it, you now see it here. So what we do now is we're just going to create a new organizational unit, obviously the underscore, which, like I said, is for organizational purposes. Seeing all of them up here is like, that's why I did that, so they pop up first and it's just all at the top. But let's go ahead and create, boom, and then we're gonna make this one clients. Okay, 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 fourth time's a charm. There we go. And then press OK. Then we'll go ahead and refresh it just so it's at the top. Boom, right there. Click on computers, and you just want to drag this over to clients and then add it there. Awesome. And then we can refresh once again, and it should go ahead and pop up inside clients. So now that we have added client 1 into the my domain server, we're going to pretty much just set up remote desktop for non-administrative users, meaning like, so we're going to create some users on the domain controller here in a little bit, and being able to log into this client 1 with any of those users, not just the Jane admin. So we're going to go ahead and go into system. This is client 1, just double check just before you do anything. Should be running Windows 10 Pro like we did in Azure. So we're going to press remote desktop and then user accounts. Select users that can remotely access this PC and then add. So obviously since it's connected to the domain, it is already like familiar with this. And since domain users is already a default like category within our domain that we created earlier, like for instance, if you go here, 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 I'm not sure exactly where it's at, but somewhere in here, obviously, you're going to see the domain users. I guess, yeah, right here. So, in order for them to have access to this client one, just do that, press OK, press OK, boom, 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 come on. Perfect, okay. Alright, so now we're going to basically create users within our domain, and in order to do so, you just want to log back into DC1 or go to your DC1 domain controller virtual machine, and you want to run PowerShell ICE as an administrator. Boom, yes. Let this load up, and there's like a script. So this is like the link for it right here. But if you put the actual script in there, come on. And this is basically to generate a bunch of random users slash names within Active Directory. So I am copying the script right now on a different screen, and we should just be able to paste in here. And essentially this just, like I said, it just organizes a bunch of consonants and vowels to create random names and creates a bunch of fake random users. This is just for the lab purposes, obviously. And like I said earlier, if to make sure that your employees is in all caps and spelled correctly, because this specific script is made to put them in the OU of underscore employees, the organizational unit. So you just want to go ahead and make sure that's correct, and then press run script. And if you see here, it's just dumping out a bunch of random names, like bed.hip is one of them I just read really quick. And if you want to open up this, boom, go back to Active Directory and users, and you want to click employees, boom. Here is all those users being created, and then honestly, you can just stop operation whenever you feel like it. It's supposed to create like 1,000 names the script is for, but we really do not need that many. After running the script, we're going to go ahead and try to log in with one of those random accounts. So we're going to log out of Jane admin of client 1, let it sign out, do its thing, and then we're going to go back into it. And let's go here, let's just pick a random, we'll just use bat.gidge just because it's easy. And also in the script that we ran, here let me open up a note because it should still be pastable. In the script here, it says that the password is set to just password1, so keep that in mind. So we're going to use bat.gidge. Remember to do the mydomain.com. Since we are in that domain, we have to specify bat.gidge and then password1. Let's see if this works. That's perfect. And we are now loading back into client 1 as a random created user, and the previous step is what made this possible, considering we allowed domain users in the domain to log into client 1 using remote desktop, not just admins. And that is why, since bat.gidge is not an admin, he is still able to log into this client 1. Now that we have all these random users created, we're going to go ahead and try to lock one of them out with like failed login attempts, and then unlock it using Active Directory. So in order to do so, if we were to try to log in right now and fail as many times as we want, it still wouldn't work because we haven't configured anything yet. We're going to use bim.hib. I already have stuff written right here. In order to go ahead and configure the policy, you just want to go to Run, right click the Start menu, Run, type in gpmc.msc, and that basically just that stands for Group Policy Management Console. So we're gonna go ahead and press OK. So here, you want to find the default domain policy. There is, I think, if you go here, it's here as well. But since it's already connected to the OU, the organizational unit, we're gonna go ahead and right-click it, press Edit, um, and then we just gotta open these drop downs. I'm gonna do this for readability purposes. All right. So policies, Windows settings, security settings, account policies, and this is where the account lockout policy is. So in order for us to configure this, we got to go, you see the account lockout duration. This basically just defines how long the account's going to be locked out for. I'll put a 30, apply. This is basically stating that since we made this enabled, it's going to autofill the rest. So it needs 5 invalid logon attempts. I'm going to do 3 just to make it quick and easy. Allow administrator account lockout enabled, reset account lockout after 10 minutes. This is basically just saying, like, if you do 2 invalid logon attempts and you do a third one, it's going to lock it, you have to wait 10 more minutes to try again, or else it's going to lock the account, because that's when the invalid logon attempts number resets. So now that we have activated that, we need to kind of like force it into effect, or you can wait 90 minutes for the policy to just activate, but we're going to go ahead and force it. First, let's look at the settings so you can see of this domain policy, see what we did. I think it's account policies, account lockout. So you see here all the units we put in and just added. So in order to force the update, we're going to go to Windows App, Remote Desktop, okay. Client 1, we're going to log into Client 1 as an admin, aka the Jane admin we created. Boom. Alright, continue. Wait for this to log in. And from here, we're going to go ahead and force the update. So go to command prompt, gp update /force. Get out of my site. There we go. Alright, gp update.force/force. Press that. Updating policy. Let that update for a second. Alright, has completed successfully. So in order to see, like, basically observe what we just did, we're gonna run command prompt as an administrator. We're gonna do gp result/r, and this is gonna show you basically what we just did. I think I had to do this again earlier. It says applied group policy objects. It says NA. Usually it would say like my domain objects or whatever we did. So we're gonna do that. So it should say something different right here, but for me, since I've already done it, it's gonna say NA. So now we're gonna try to go ahead and log out of Jane admin. I'm gonna just go ahead and copy and paste this though. Command C. Boom. Boom. And then we're just gonna get a couple of invalid logon attempts until it locks us out. Okay, unable to connect because the account has been locked due to too many sign-in attempts. That's good. So now that that has happened, we're going to go back into domain controller. Let's say like you're opening this from scratch. Obviously, I have this already opened, and you want to find that specific user. You want to do this. Close out of it. We'll go back into it. Active Directory user and computers. If you want to like find it, just right click on mydomain.com, find, and then you can just type in bim.hib find now, and then there it is right there. So you can right click on that, go to properties, click on account, and you see unlock account. This account is currently locked out on this Active Directory domain controller. So we're going to go ahead and check that to unlock it, apply, okay. Close out, and let's try to log back in with bim.hib, see if it works. Remember the password is just password1 because of the script. And then it should just log in successfully. That's awesome. Okay. One more thing, if you want to go ahead, obviously, because if you're working IT for a company, I'm sure eventually you'll have to reset a password at some point. You just want to go ahead and find your that account. Like for me, I'm just gonna use bim.hib again. Find now. You just click on it, right click. You literally just press reset password. And there's a couple things, so we'll just put new password as password 2. Password 2. I don't think I pressed the number 2 there. There we go. Um, unlock account lockout status on this domain controller unlocked. Okay. Okay. So now that the password is reset, let's go ahead. Let's see. Are we still logged in as bim.hib? Yeah. Okay. So we'll sign out and then we'll try to log back in with that new password real quick. Bim.hib and then password 2. And obviously I'll check and show y'all. Continue. Awesome. There we go. It's easy as that.